Good morning. It is Wednesday, August 30th. We're here for our regular scheduled Commissioner Board meeting. We have all three commissioners present. We have our administrator and the clerk of the board. And at this time, I'll call the meeting to order and ask everyone to please rise and join in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the warrants, the vouchers. I believe we have one, right?
Yes, one today. Move for approval of fund expenditures in a total amount of $839,434.25 as presented. And note that it has been reviewed and signed by two representatives of the auditor's office and the county administrator.
Second. There's been a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we'll move down to the consent agenda. I believe there's a payroll too?
No.
Just, we only have one voucher.
Well, my mistake. There is two.
Oh, okay. Good job, Teresa.
Yeah, thank you. Move for approval of salary clearing payroll and emergency management payroll in a total amount of $1,491,091.89. As presented, and note that it has been reviewed and signed by two representatives of the auditor's office.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That moves us down to the consent agenda, and I believe there are 6 items on the consent agenda today.
Move for approval of the consent agenda as presented, 6 items.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for the 6 items on the consent agenda. Is there any discussion?
No.
Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Next, we move down to a clarification. I believe it was on 8/23, we passed resolution 2023-233. And it was agreement 1AA24-325, Ben Franklin Juvenile of Washington State for support of CASA volunteer GAL programs. The resolution number needs to be amended to 2023-233A. That's 2023-233A because resolution number 233 had been used on 8/15 as an emergency proclamation relating to the HVAC serving the courthouse second floor. So let it be noted that there is a clarification on that to 233A, resolution 2023-233A. Is there any more discussion on this? Did anybody have any questions?
No questions.
Okay, with that, we'll move down. There's no regular business. Public comment. Is there anybody here for public comment? Please come forward.
Good morning. My name is Todd Epic. I've been before you before, and I'm here again 8 months later. No resolution, no official decision, nothing communicated to me in an official manner, which quite frankly is embarrassing if I was the three of you. So I'm here because on December 28th, the fact occurred that county property runoff of snow flooded my home, causing significant damage and financial burden to my wife and I. And that's a fact. There's no doubt about it. Those of you who have made the effort to come out and see it, there's no doubt about the fact that county road waters flooded my home. I'm back again because of the fact that I don't have resolution, I don't have an answer, so that I can make my next decision of what I'm going to do. I have not received official conclusion to this. Originally, when I came, it was relayed to me, it doesn't matter how, but it was relayed to me that a decision was made that it was the farmer's fault because of the fact that there was a culvert in place that was covered up and historically abandoned by the farmers, myself and my neighbor specifically. I actually have documented photos showing that in 1961 that culvert didn't exist, and it still doesn't exist today. And when I requested, as it was still pressed that no, there's a culvert there, I requested that it be dug up and found. Nothing happened, and then finally, after Mr. Erdman and Mr. Sant came to our home and looked, they finally admitted, yeah, there isn't a culvert there, despite the fact that blueprints from the county show that there is one. So I got something from the Washington County Risk Pool saying that it's not their responsibility to provide a culvert in that area. There is one on the other side of the road, but there isn't on our side of the road. They also said that because of the elevation and location of my home, it was a decision made many years ago when our home was put in place that was my problem, not anyone else's. Where those of you who have been out to my home recognize that the low elevation is actually about 300 yards, 400 yards beyond my home, which is set up with a culvert under the road from my side of the farm to the other side to drain out the water there into a canal of SCBID, which is the mitigation plan that was in place. The only problem is that at my home, there wasn't ever a mitigation place put in place. So then after receiving that information, they also talked about how the farmers had built up the driveway to a higher elevation, which is so counterintuitive and not make sense. That actually, if your elevation's higher, then that would cause the water to not go in there. So, physics doesn't support that answer either. So I spoke with Mr. Sant. He suggested that he came out with Mr. Erdman, and they came out and saw everything and suggested that that doesn't make sense what was said by the County Risk Pool of Washington State, and that I should get with Mr. Gonzalez and figure out a way that I could speak with and have a discussion with the commissioners.
So this is a 3-minute comment period?
Yeah.
We have 2 of them,
Yeah.
and I don't want to disrupt you, but we have another one that you can come up for another 3 minutes.
Okay.
Mr. Merrill, so that would be able, hopefully you can conclude during that time, but right now this is just a comment period.
Okay.
Is there anybody else for public comment? Please come forward.
Morning, Commissioners and staff. Thomas Grandbois, Big Maple Properties, 108 North 4th in Pasco. I'm here today because I'm sure it's election season now, and we have election signage out. And as I'm sure, Mr. Ditter, I've seen video of your signage being damaged that Mr. Bauman caught. It's sort of a natural thing that happens and a natural unfortunate thing that happens this time of the year. But I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but there were some more recent racist attacks against Irving Brown on his signage that were really disturbing for the city of Pasco and District 3. They were quite terrible.
Not aware of it.
It's awful. If you have a chance, check out his Facebook page. He has pictures of it. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about that, because it's just that kind of behavior does not belong in Franklin County. And I think that leaders from all areas need to speak up against these kind of racist attacks against Mr. Brown. We've seen it a couple times in council chambers, which were really unfortunate, and now we're seeing it on election signage. And that kind of stuff doesn't belong at all, no matter who the candidate is. It just does not belong. And I wanted to also take a moment to talk about Mr. Brown himself. I'm not a part of his election campaign or anything. I'm just somebody who attends meetings regularly and has gotten to know him. And he is a real quality man. He is an honest man. He is a man of faith that even when he votes against things that I personally think are important, he does so with reason and honor, and he's a great man. And I think it'd be a great opportunity for electeds to reach out to him. You know, again, you may not agree with him on certain things, but just to acknowledge that that kind of behavior does not belong on the election trail. It doesn't belong on the football field. It doesn't belong in your apartments. It doesn't belong in your businesses. And we need to stamp this out as a community and not just, and not allow this to continue to fester. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment?
Good morning, Kathy Sant, Franklin County. I wanted to thank Mike Gonzalez for in support of Irving Brown and for the anti-racism. So if you haven't looked, Facebook page of Franklin County has things condemning, yeah. So if the commissioners are not aware, it's there. So he's in my district. I'm not part of his campaign either, but he is my district city councilman, and I was appalled by the racist attacks against him. We don't have any room for that in our community. So I wish there would have been a public comment period 2 weeks ago when you guys made the vote for the Hapo Center contract and gave it to Harris White Leisure Group after the Simmons Venue Management had pulled the Hapo Center out of distress and made a profit for the first time. And I was concerned that no one answered 2 weeks ago Commissioner Peck's questions about the cost of the contract. So I wanted to know if you guys know how much the new contract will cost the county and the taxpayers, or is this one of those bills where we have to vote on it before we know what's in it? So I just wish that there was a little bit more transparency going on with that. And I also take my First Amendment rights very seriously, and I do not appreciate that Commissioner Didier threatened to take my freedom of speech away by intimidation through the county prosecutor, who happens to be my husband. Telling my husband that he will file a restraining order against me and the female employee who you treated very poorly in the rotunda with malice and disrespect is not constitutional. Even when you don't agree with somebody's opinions, you should still listen to them. That's part of the First Amendment rights that people have. And I noticed on the agenda, it talks about that you guys can't interact with us when we give our comments during the comment period, but it encourages us to speak to you guys outside of the meeting. And I have tried that, and I want to give Mr. Mullen and Mr. Peck kudos for listening to me and my concerns. And I would encourage Commissioner Didier to do the same instead of putting a hand up in my face and not having any feedback. So I just figured as an elected official, it's important that you listen to your constituents, even if you don't agree with them. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else for public comment?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Stephen Bauman. I'm the chairman of the Franklin County Republican Party. And I want to speak to the racial slurs that were spoken to Councilman Irving Brown and condemn it in every possible way. It was a despicable act. And I had the opportunity to meet with Councilman Brown and talk with him. And the only thing that I have seen publicly spoken of is the note that was left by his sign. After I spoke with him, there was also racial slurs yelled at him on multiple different occasions to him and or about him, and I want to condemn that in the strongest possible manner. I also want to speak to, I agree with Mr. Grambois about there's no place for that in Franklin County, and we need to stand up against that as leaders in our county. I also want to speak to, there was one of our elected officials here locally that insinuated that this attack was perpetuated by the Franklin County Republican Party. And I have no idea who made the attack on Councilman Brown. I have no idea any of the parties involved in that. And I want to say that the Franklin County Republican Party doesn't condone that in any form or fashion, in any way, shape, or form, and am very disappointed that one of our elected officials in Franklin County would insinuate that somehow the Franklin County Republican Party was responsible for that. We were not, do not condone that in any way, and want to say publicly that what somebody has done in a despicable way towards Councilman Brown is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Seeing none, we move down to Commissioner Administrator updates. Mr. Gonzalez?
Thank you, Chair, and just wanted to echo the sentiments of the public comment here. And I did put something on our Facebook page, which I'm certain that we all align with here, and just to really speak out against this act. And I'm going to go ahead and read this verbatim, what's on our Facebook page, to let the public know what's there, and certainly welcome the support for Councilman Brown. He's a good man. So here it is. Franklin County stands with Pasco City Councilman Irving Brown. We stand up against racism, hatred, and this heinous attempt to divide our community. Just a few days ago, his campaign sign was destroyed and a racist message was left near the sign. Acts like this cannot be tolerated, nor can we remain silent when something like this does occur. I worked with Councilman Brown when I was at the City of Pasco as an economic development manager. He is caring, capable, and someone who works incredibly hard for our citizens. Councilman Brown loves the Lord, is an outstanding leader, and always looks for ways to bring people together. Let's take this racist act and allow it to bring us together for good. Thank you, Councilman Brown, for your public service. We are here for you like you've been here for the people of Franklin County. So, again, we can't tolerate this kind of behavior, and you know, I consider him a personal friend, a good man, and somebody that really fights for justice, freedom, and loves the people of Pasco. So, you know, certainly let's rally around him and, you know, have people come together as a result. In terms of other things going on, I met with a strategic growth committee on Monday, good conversation. It's budget season, so I've been spending a lot of time with department heads and the benefits committee, so that's taken up quite a bit of time. Spending time with Harris Leisure on the transition, and you know, working out the contractual details. And you know, from a contractual standpoint, I can't give away too many details, but I will say that, you know, price-wise, it'll be very comparable, if not the same. You know, in terms of what that price point will be. So we certainly want to get the best value for the county, but I'll continue to update folks as much as I can, and you can always reach out to me too. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Peck?
Well, I'll just echo the sentiments already said, reference the issue with Councilman Brown. As for updates this week, highlights were all-day meeting with attorneys from the State Attorney General's office on a HAFIC matter. Monday, met extended meeting with a constituent over some complicated land use issues on land that until recently was in the county donut hole and then has been annexed, and that creates a number of issues for utilities in a service area. And then had a meeting with the Hanford Area Economic Investment Trust, that board meeting on Monday. Thank you.
Commissioner Mullen?
So I had the Pasco Chamber meeting yesterday. They have the Sunshine Ball that's coming up, and then also out of that meeting, the announcement from Port of Pasco that the American Airlines will start a daily direct flight from Pasco to Phoenix. And then also last week was the Benton Franklin Fair. I spoke with Lori Lancaster, and food sales were up, Carnival rides were up, and Carnival did not increase their rates of the prices, so kept their rate the same as it was last year, and still their sales were up. Talked with Ben Franklin Transit. They were up about 2,500 rides to the fair. They transported over 20,000 people to the front gates of the fair. And as far as like next year, if you're planning on going to the fair, the transit really is the most feasible and easiest access to the fairgrounds. But overall, like I said, at the Ben Franklin Fair, they do an outstanding job. And I have worked fairs across the nation, and I just don't say this because I'm from this area, but I can guarantee you that the Ben Franklin Fair is one of the most successful fairs in the nation, and they do an outstanding job putting it on. Thank you.
Well, my last week was sort of disrupted with our meetings moving to Wednesday. I got to get a hold of the Port of Pasco because it was at the same time as our meeting, so I was unable to attend that, which is critical. And then I had the hub meeting, and we talked about the abuse to our benefits package and how maybe we can correct that and get our employees in this courthouse better medical benefits. I had the agenda meeting on Friday, and then also Friday I had a opportunity, got called and met with the Visit Tri-Cities and Hotel Motel Commission about HWL coming to the Tri-Cities, and they're very excited, and Mr. Gonzalez went with me. We went and met with them, and they are very excited about this potential of a group that is nationwide come to the Tri-Cities and bringing a lot more events to the Tri-Cities. Is there anything you want to elaborate on it?
No, I thought it was a good conversation, and I think the gist of it was, the ability to put heads in beds, essentially, something that was articulated from the Hotel Motel Commission that hasn't been happening. And, this isn't like a recent thing. It's over the probably last 5-10 years. So, and just having a group that's complex and that can operate in that space. So I think there was a level of excitement that, I was a little surprised, so they were really excited about the process.
Yes. And then I had the Ben Franklin Workforce Development meeting yesterday. The governor has mandated that we, as counties, do a 200% on the poverty level income to help people out. And through the discussion, I asked, well, a 200% of what level? You're not giving us numbers here. What is the poverty level? And they said 35,000. And I said, so the 200% is going to take us to 70,000? They said, no, that is the 200% increase. The poverty level of a family is 17,500. And I think it's actually sort of a situation that's created by our governor. He's increased the fuel prices with this global warming, whatever he calls it. He's put another additional 60 some odd cents on a gallon of gasoline and a gallon of diesel. This inflationary rate on our families, it's crippling our families' ability to make choices of bills and food for the family. And he has helped create it, and now he's going to solve it by charging or giving away more money of the people that are earning it. And that's us. And then I got lots of phone calls. I didn't go to the fair. I told Mike and the girls to give the tickets to the people of the courthouse, and I hope the other commissioners did the same, because it's important for everybody to get out to the fair and mix up with the rural Franklin County when they bring their animals in. It's good for people to go see what this is all about. But the calls I got were about the prices. I heard instances where 2 glasses of lemonade was 30 some odd dollars. Baked potato was $22. I mean, and I got a guy that was 86 years old, called me, said he witnessed a family of 5 buying 1 pop for the kids, and they all shared it, because you got families that are hurting. And a vendor that was there was asked, how come your prices are so high here? And it's because of the rates that they charge the vendors to set up. And so I'm thinking, how do we get this more in order where people can afford to take their family to the fair and enjoy the fair? And I understand it was very difficult for people to go out there and enjoy themselves. It might have been the highest ever, and the food sales are up, but I think it could be a far cry better if we kept the prices down so people can go and enjoy it. And then the The last thing I want to say is about Mr. Brown. I've experienced myself, Mr. Brown. Just rise above it. You're doing a great job at City Council, and I want to get together and meet Mr. Brown and talk to him. I also want to wish David Milne quick healing. He was involved in a motorcycle accident. He was on the motorcycle. He broke his arm. He also broke ribs, and I was told by his wife that he had brain bleeds on both sides of his brain. So I ask you to please pray for David for a quick healing. He's another city council member that's in the hospital right now. So with that, that's the end of my report, and I will give it back to Mr. Gonzalez for the administration office business. Is there anything?
Nothing today, sir.
And so we're back to public comment. Mr. Epic.
Can I give these to
Yeah.
be part of public record?
Is that just one copy or is it?
No, there's a copy for each of you to go all the way around to Mr. Gonzalez.
Okay, thank you.
As a healthcare executive leader for one of the largest healthcare organizations in the nation, one of our basic tenets is to do no harm. And I feel like the county commissioners have a duty to ensure that harm is not inflicted upon your constituents. There was significant harm inflicted upon my wife and I. Additionally, county commissioners must manage county needs and mitigations. As it stands, the commissioners are causing harm to their constituents by breaching their duty to mitigate foreseeable damages caused by improperly managed and constructed county property. If the county believes that allowing one individual to recover damages from the county will open floodgates of litigation, which was what is relayed to me, it reflects poorly on how the county conducts itself. This fear should not limit my remedies. And in fact, if you are causing harm elsewhere, as you are to me and Janet, my wife, the other harmed parties have a right to be reimbursed appropriately. The county has a responsibility to do no harm. That should be the basic tenets of what we're doing. Do no harm to your constituents. And I just hope that you can make an official decision that is relayed to me officially, not through verbal processes, so that then I can determine my next steps. I've consulted council a couple of times, and they are very much in agreement that there is definitely trespass that's happening on my property. They feel like they have a case, and so I need to know what my next steps are. And if you settle my claim, then we don't go down that pathway. If you don't, then we go down that pathway for my claim and punitive damages. So I'm asking you to do your job, do no harm, and appropriately reconcile this claim I have with the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, public comment? Anybody on the phone? Okay. I see. Please come forward.
Just want to say, I really like the format of public comment before and after, because sometimes things will spark your mind on a completely unrelated topic. Mr. Didier, you mentioned vendor fees. I was involved with Downtown Pasco Development Authority in Cinco de Mayo, and we found that it was a really beneficial thing to lower our vendor fees so that they can be more successful and pass those savings on. Obviously, something like Cinco de Mayo or the Fiery Foods Festival is a whole other animal than a fair, but I think that you brought up a great point that would be worth passing on to the folks that decide those, because it is lower vendor fees helps them make money and then pass those savings on to the customers. So thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. I also appreciate the format of having an opportunity to speak after the business has been done primarily. Two things that you said, Mr. Didier, that I would like to key off on. Our governor and him driving up the cost of energy, fuel, et cetera, I believe needs to be really pointed out that disproportionately it impacts the low-income earners the most, and to a absolute severe number. Depend on what quote-unquote expert you talk to. In the last 12 months, our cost per gallon of fuel has risen between 48 and 70 cents, depending on whose opinion you listen to. But in all opinions, it has risen significantly. And I think that the blame needs to be laid where it belongs, at his feet, and the ones that have chosen to enact what his agenda has brought forward. Other topic, the cost of going to the fair. So I had the opportunity to go to the fair. I went and bought a ticket, and I went in on the day that the fair animals were sold, and had the opportunity to buy an animal and help a kid's dream come true that they were hoping for, and was excited to do that. I did not buy a meal because my kids had expressed to me 2 days before, whenever we sponsored their trip to the fair, that they had each got a meal, not a full meal, and for 2 kids it was $55 for 2 kids to have not even a full meal. And we've gotten to the point where it's akin to price gouging, because you don't have any other option. It says right at the gate as you walk in, you can't bring any outside. And so they shared a drink, and it's absolutely ridiculous that the prices that are paid is $55 for 2 kids to get not even a full meal. And I appreciate, we all like to make money. We all like to get to a point where that we can that it's worthwhile doing it. But $55 for 2 people to not even have akin to a full meal is to a level of ridiculousness. And not sure necessarily that there's anything you guys can be done, but I think it needs to be stated publicly that it has gotten to the point where that the best week of summer is a burden for families. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment?
I'll do something. I don't know if Todd has another turn. My name is Janet Epic, and I just have a quick, I wanted just to read a few things just for public record. Why were and these are in the handouts that you received, why were elected officials advised not to speak to their constituents? Why was Mr. Epic, a 54-year resident of Franklin County, not given the opportunity to have an interactive conversation with 3 county commissioners? And that's what we feel like. There was a lot of misinformation given and received, understood for whatever reason. And we would just love to have an opportunity to have a question and answer with you constituents, where you can ask us questions and we can maybe set the record straight and understand each other. And anyway, that's what I just wanted to say. If we could have that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Nobody on the phone? And is there any need for an executive session?
No, sir, not today.
So with that, I would encourage the Epics to please reach out to each commissioner singly, and we can meet with you. But as a group, we can't unless we're in this format and you're on the agenda. So I would encourage you to come meet with each of us individually, and hopefully we can help remedy this. So if there's no other business for the good of the county,
I have something I want to say about the Ben Franklin Fair. Again, it really is one of the best supported fairs across the nation. And I say that, and people say, well, that's where you're from, so of course you're going to support your local fair. But I can tell you, from working fairs, I've worked fairs in New York, Texas, all over the United States. This really is one of the best fairs around. It's managed the best, I believe. Lori Lancaster does a great job. And as far as their fees to the vendors and whatnot, they are right in line with all the other fairs. In fact, they take about 20%, which it is getting to the point now where most fairs are 20 to 25. Puyallup takes 27%, or at least the last time I worked it. And that money that is collected from the vendors on those percentages goes to pay for the entertainment. In all honesty, if you looked at the books at the fair, they don't capture a lot of profit off of the fair. The majority of that money goes to pay for the bands that come in, and the bands are what bring people in. They have worked with the vendors to provide a value meal. So if you're a food vendor, you have to provide a value meal to the public. And they had good success with that. So they are trying to combat the higher prices. I mean, everything has escalated in price, not just the fair. And so in all fairness, the Fair Board does a great job at the Ben Franklin Fair. So, and I do realize that the prices are up, but the prices of everything are up. So, and I think that the fair is a great opportunity for our young citizens to be actively involved in the fair with either it be animals or photography. It gives them a project, gives them something to do rather than just roaming the streets and getting in trouble with other activities. So, and I know that the fair is having issues with, the future plans of the fairgrounds. And there's a lot of changes that are coming, and it's very concerning because, like, I will put the Ben Franklin Fair up against any fair in the nation as far as a 5-day event. There's vendors that come all the way from Texas, and they will tell you that they do a lot of 10-day shows, and Ben Franklin beats them in 5 days. So they are working hard to try to curtail some of the prices, and that's why they do offer the value meals and things like that. That's required if you're a vendor. So, in their defense, and they do a great job. And it's sad that that everything is escalated in price. But, anyways, thank you.
Is there any other business for the good of the county?
I just had one observation on the fair, and it's not really any of the points that have been discussed thus far. It's just in the interest of transparency, the taxpayers should know that Franklin County's annual contribution to the fair, unless it's changed this year, Mr. Gonzalez, if it has, please correct me, but last I checked, Franklin County taxpayers contribute $10,000 to the fair, which is a lot of money, but in the context of a fair is not a lot of money. Not taking a position one way or another, just helping to educate our citizens. Thanks.
Yeah, that's what we pay to be a part of it, and it's more of a support mechanism. And
It was on the agenda, and we approved it.
yeah.
So, all right, if there's no other business for the good of the county, this meeting is adjourned.